This podcast was sponsored by A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you may be watching today. We welcome you back to another edition of the Vicars Crossing podcast. The Vicars Crossing is a virtual space where faith intersects with the public square. And we're glad you're back with us today. We've had a wonderful opportunity over the last few weeks since this whole COVID thing started to move our little podcast where we used to just sit in a room together and record into this kind of virtual community now with Zoom and the opportunity to get with people all over North America right now. So we're glad that we could be back with you for another episode today. And we want to say hi to our sponsor today, as always, good folks at A. Miller George Funeral Home. And Ian, what do we know about A. Miller George?
Listen, it's where each life is celebrated. And we want to say thank you to their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated.
Ooh, those are, but you guys are amazing.
We are. We're teaming up big
What
time.
a team.
That's right. So, Dave, thanks for being a part of our podcast and for your generous support. We appreciate that. And today we have a very special guest in the room today, all the way from Minnesota, right, Angela? You're in Minnesota right
Minneapolis,
now?
yeah.
Minneapolis, Minnesota, yeah. The Reverend Angela Khabeb. Am I saying that right?
Close enough.
It doesn't matter.
Khabeb. We'll go with Khabeb.
Yeah. Khabeb. And Angela is in Minneapolis right now at her parish, and we're glad to have her on board because we want to find out a little bit more about what's happening down there, kind of a frontline view, if you will. So, Angela, welcome to the Vicars Crossing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And again, I'm Rob Henderson from Holy Trinity St. Stephen's in London.
And I am Kevin George from St. Aidan's Church here in Northwest London as well, where we had a black bear today.
You did have a bear in
there was a black bear in the neighborhood today, just up the road here, and they had to shoot it out of a tree.
No.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they did.
Out. Seriously?
I'm not kidding. And
Oh my gosh.
so, Angela, when you get off of this, you'll be able to tell the people up in Minnesota. I was talking to Canadians, and they had a bear, and I'm going to tell you, having a bear in this city is very unusual. But there was one here today.
He was looking for the honey that's in the backyard, obviously.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
Clearly.
And I'm eating, and I do things also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope you don't hunt bears, Ian.
No, that's not my main hobby.
All right. Good. Well, it's good to see everybody again. We just want to do a quick check-in. We know there's been a couple of things going on the last few days here in our area. And I was going to ask Kevin about a interfaith service recently and some other forums that we've been able to take part in here in the Vicars Crossing.
Yeah, we're really pleased to be able to provide a YouTube space for the interfaith service that took place a couple of weeks ago, praying for the Forest City here and for everybody struggling with COVID-19 and those who are working to bring healing in the midst of it. And we've had really affirmative, positive feedback from that. And I had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Munir El-Qassam and Rabbi Dressler in the past week or so. And we felt that with the unrest around racism and the concern that is being expressed, we need to do this again. So again, the Vicars Crossing is providing the YouTube space this upcoming Sunday night. At 7:30 p.m. If you go to our YouTube channel, there will be a service, a multi-faith, interfaith service to address concerns around racism and in support of Black Lives Matter. And that on the heels of our city yesterday, or not yesterday, Saturday, great 10,000 people, probably the largest protest or demonstration we've ever had in the city. So there's that going on. And on Tuesday night, actually, Wednesday night, pardon me, here at St. Aidan's through our Zoom account, we're hosting an event called Justice, Mercy, Humility, and it's prayers for all those who are Black, Indigenous, people of color. And it's a dialogue panel being moderated by Sal Can, who is the former diversity officer for the City of London. She's now in Peel Region. And our speakers will be a couple of veterans of the Vicars Crossing, actually, because we've got Steve Green on there, who is a priest up in Cambridge. We will also have Ariel Kayabaga, Ward 13 counselor, who released some of her emails this past couple of weeks that shows the racism she faces here as a person of color. Hannah Scorer, the Reverend Hannah Scorer, who is of Japanese descent, who's here in the city in a parish, and Reverend Rosalind Elm, who is from Oneida First Nations. So we're going to have a panel, which is going to be really great. If you want to participate in that, be in touch with the parish. We'll make sure you get the Zoom link to take part. But lots of good stuff happening in the midst of all of it.
All right, good. So look forward to that. So, Angela, there's a little section that we do here on the Vicars Crossing every time we get together, and it's only because there's only one person in our little band of three that really knows anything about anything. Kevin and I can fake it, but it's really Ian that
Ian's
has
the man.
knowledge. So this is a special segment that we like to call
for Ask Ian anything.
How do you like that, Angela?
Oh, I love the sound effects. That's nice. That's nice. Reverb.
When we used to gather in a room together, he would do that with a soundboard. Now he has to play it into a microphone. But hey, we're keeping the spirit alive here.
Right. So where's our question today come from, Kevin?
So today's question comes from right here. Like right here, like right in this chair.
Right in this chair. Oh, okay.
Right.
Oh, I'm looking around for somebody.
No. I've decided that I have a question for Ian today.
Oh, changing it up. I see.
Yeah. Well, so we've been through a lot. COVID-19, there's been lots of isolation and everything going on. 2020 seems to be a bit exasperating, but perhaps the most devastating thing that we've seen, obviously, in these past couple of weeks has been the fallout after the murder of George Floyd, the protests that have ensued, even here in the city, and knowing that what's come there is on the heels of a lot more. And I want to ask you, Ian, what would be, if you had a word to let the listeners, the watchers, the viewers know what you're feeling right now in this space and time, what would that word be? And you two get ready, because I'm coming to you next.
Okay.
Hopeful.
Hopeful.
That's the word I'd use.
Okay, so why would you say hopeful?
Because there's no way that we're going to come out of this returning to whatever we were in 2019 or 2018. That's stupid, and if anyone thinks that, they're wrong. There's going to be so much change that's going to happen, and I'm hopeful because there's going to be so much positive change for everyone in this world once, like, COVID revealed things. We keep talking about the interview with Sarah
Miles. Yeah,
her. She said remove the veil. That's what's happening. COVID and the BLM movement is removing the veil of everything that we thought was fine, but it's incredibly wrong, and it's showing what we can now focus on and what we can fix. So I'm hopeful for what's coming next.
That's a really good answer.
Is that a good answer?
That's a great answer.
Really
I like that. So to the listener who called us in, Kevin George, I hope you like that answer of Ian's, but it wouldn't be fair if we didn't ask the others.
Yeah.
Let's go to Angela next. Angela, what word would you use to say how you're feeling?
May I have 2 words, please?
You can use 2.
Absolutely.
The other day I was signing off on an email, and I started to write in peace, but then I had to change that, and I wrote in pieces. And so, if someone asks me how I'm doing, if I think they want more than fine,
Yeah, right.
then I say I'm in pieces.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
That's where I am.
I bet you, and I mean, we're going to hear more about that as we go on, but
Sure.
certainly
Sure.
facing what you're facing up there, I can appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
Rob, what word would you use?
Hearing Angela's word, I totally get that. So the word I'm going to use is kind of going to piggyback a little on that, but it's a different word. I feel transformed. but not to say that that's an end thing.
Ongoing.
I'm not ongoing trend. Yeah, I could use
Right.
two words. But transformed too, in the sense that there have been different parts of me that have been split too. And I hear that when Angela says pieces, I'm like getting that so much. There's been so many parts of me that have changed, I feel, so quickly over the last 3-4 months, especially over the last couple of weeks, especially in regard to George Floyd and some of the things around that we've been taking part in throughout the world and watching. And so it's been a transformative time, and I'm kind of feeling that right now. And it's a good thing, but it's also a challenge because there's it's a continual upward climb in a way. But there's definitely change going on, and I'm feeling it.
Thank you. I should say what my word is too, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I will. I have to say to you, I didn't think. Even though I had the question, there's a lot of words I could use, so I didn't script this. I'm listening to you guys and figuring out which one I'm going to go with. The one that I want to use is I feel contrite. I feel like I want to confess. I feel like I've been a part of systems that have oppressed people, and I haven't yet figured out how to be a good ally. I want to confess that at times I think I am. And then one of the other words that came to mind was apocalyptic. Remember when Sarah, as Ian spoke about, she was talking about revelation, about the veil being pulled back. And one of the things that's happened in this last few weeks especially has been that veil being pulled back. And as that has happened, I feel contrite that I've got work to do. So that's how I'm feeling. And I think we've in this little box here, we've heard a few things that we're hearing from a lot of people right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, again, we're so thankful that Angela could spend time with us. I'd like to just ask Kevin perhaps to give a formal introduction of our guest today, please.
I will do. I am so pleased because I know just how much you've got on your plate right now, Angela. You know, when everything happened up in Twin Cities, I was praying, about what we could do here on this forum. How can we get a voice on here that can help express all that? And I remembered reading a piece that you had written. I don't know how I stumbled on it, but it was out of like a blog, a Lutheran blog or something like that. But you were talking about your own experience being a Lutheran. And I thought, where is she? And there you were. And so I reached out through the parish webpage and through Facebook and eventually connected with you. And I know that you've got so many things going, but I'm so grateful that you've come here. So a little bit about Angela Khabeb. She serves at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota. She is a Bridges Scholar and distinguished alumna of the Lutheran School of Theology at Chicago, which I pause to say was adjacent to and attached to McCormick Theological Seminary, where I did some of my studies, where I did my doctoral stuff, and did some classes with the Lutheran School of Theology. So we share some people we know, as it turns out. She won the 2018 Emerging Voice Award and the James Kenneth Eccles Prize for Excellence in Preaching. Angela has completed her undergrad at Carthage College in Kenosha and is a published writer and essayist. Originally from Omaha, Nebraska.
Woo, Omaha.
But has lived in many other cities like Chicago, Denver, Kenosha. Kenosha is in Wisconsin, yeah?
Yep.
And in Springfield. And from 2000 to 2002, she was an ECLA missionary in Nambia, Africa, where she met and married her husband, Benhi. Benhi and Angela have been married for 19 years, and they have 3 wonderful children, Konami, Kiana, is that Kenna, and Connie? Connie. And in their spare time, this vibrant family enjoys world music, creative writing, leisurely walks, and bike riding. And let me say that lately, Angela hasn't had much spare time. So I don't know if there's much of that going on. Yeah. But what I really like, and there's a question coming up about this later, but your core spiritual belief is quite simple. Jesus is intimately and infinitely concerned with each and every one of us. So we're going to get into that in a bit. But you are a gift to us and to the church. Thank you for being with us today.
Praise God.
Thanks
for having me. Yep.
So let us move into right into the heart of the matter, I guess. When I took a look at where you're located, your church is located, Holy Trinity Lutheran Church. It's right in the heart of the neighborhood where George Floyd was murdered.
Actually, the murder took place on 38th and Chicago.
Okay.
So that is probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles from here. And the 3rd precinct, the police precinct where the officers are from, is like a block from here.
Oh, I see.
Well, there's two.
Right. Either way, you're not far away from all of it.
Yeah, we're not far away from either of them. In fact, where George Floyd was murdered is just steps away from the elementary school where my kids go to school.
Wow. So, so your church is close enough, really, and especially with the 3rd precinct and all the demonstrations and the protests, that during the ensuing protests, you folks must have been concerned for your building. I mean, I saw a Facebook video that you posted from the roof where you could see the buildings around it that are burned out, just how close the fires came. So I wonder if you can tell us about your church, about Holy Trinity, a little bit about its history and its current context, and what was your community's response in the midst of these protests? I mean, you must have been beside yourself.
Well, Holy Trinity has been in the neighborhood since 1904, I believe.
Wow.
I just got here August 2018.
Wow.
So I'm one of the newer members on the block. So what our main concern was during the fires was that the Trinity apartments. So Trinity Lutheran Church built 40 years ago these high-rise apartments, and they're fully occupied. And then we have a low-rise apartments. It's all affordable housing. Well, most of it's affordable housing. And that's where our main concern was. If the fire spreads, what happens to the people that live there? Churches are insured. Fires happen. And should the church burn down, yes, people would be heartbroken. And we would simply rebuild the church, right? Mm-hmm. And then that's one way, I think, to get rid of that white Jesus on those stained glass windows.
Well, there you go.
Say amen. Somebody.
Amen.
Right?
Amen to that.
One way.
I'll say a praise Jesus to that. I don't see any whites in the Bible, but just let that sink in for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
We'll do that the next time we talk. We'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that. So yes, we were concerned. And the other piece was that night we had people here in the building who were wounded and people who were seeking sanctuary. So those were some of the main concerns. Property, we can rebuild, that's replaceable. We were mostly concerned about things we cannot replace.
Sure. So you guys sort of became a bit of a medic center in the midst of this, yeah?
By accident.
Yeah.
By accident, there was this restaurant around the corner, this Indian restaurant, Gandhi Mahal. I'm sure you've probably heard about him by now. I want to say he was in the New York Times. There were some people moving down in front of his restaurant. He opens up the door, asks him, "Do you need some water?" And one of the medics said yes. And he gave her some. And then she said, "What I really need is a place to bring the wounded." So this man opens up his restaurant and turns it into like this makeshift clinic, and then gets in the kitchen and starts cooking.
Wow, that's amazing.
Praise Jesus.
Yes.
And he makes little care packages, and it's just a beautiful outpouring of the gospel. And I don't think that he would call himself a Christian, but sure showed the love of Christ.
That's right.
Yep.
So then the building next to his, that's attached to his, caught fire. So then they had to quick move. And so since we're just, we share an alley. So they moved over to the church. And so that's how we got to be a medic station. Someone asked, we said absolutely. And so we opened up our doors because this church is dedicated to justice. And Holy Trinity has a long history in the community as being a justice church. In fact, when I interviewed here, one of the questions from the call committee was, tell us how many protests you've been to in the past year.
Wow.
So then I was like, let me see, 1, 2, 3. Oh, carry the one. Let's see, exactly 0. And they were like, oh no, that
You ain't
will
gonna
not.
work.
It's not
They said
happening
that will
here.
not do. They said we expect our pastors to be in the street. We expect you to have a voice in the public square.
Right.
Now,
So,
now, Rob is just a couple years into a parish. It wasn't that long ago. You had an interview.
Well, yeah, Kindred Spirits. I started in my parish here in London in August 1st of 2018. So you're saying that, and I'm thinking to myself,
did you get that question? Did you get that question?
Oh no, I didn't. I never got that question for sure. It was more around would you come to our roast beef dinner?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. Of course, I love roast beef.
I can do that too.
Yeah, but I was thinking, as Angela, you're saying that, I'm thinking, I know some of the stresses of being the new person, the new clergy, the new person in the community, having to go what you're going through right now. So it's such a new incumbency that you're doing. Boy, oh boy, good on you.
And the layers.
And the layers of it. Yeah.
You got to do this with COVID. It's like
exactly.
COVID, not now. COVID, not now.
Yeah.
With no time for this now.
Yeah. Yes, not now. Ask your father.
Yeah.
Make your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Get out of here, COVID. Get out of here.
Back off and get your own sandwich.
Yes,
That's right.
get out of here. It's all about you. It's all about you, COVID.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore. No.
COVID is so high maintenance, isn't it?
Terribly
I mean,
so.
there are diseases that affect millions of people.
Yeah.
Malaria, AIDS. You can still be in the same room with them, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
COVID
right.
is high maintenance.
Oh,
Yeah, he is. He is big time.
Woo, my
baby.
goodness.
Hearing that story of the person that helped you set up the restaurant, set up the medical center too.
Oh, I wasn't finished.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Keep going.
I'm sorry, I forgot. So then he's at home. He can see on the news the footage and sees that his restaurant is burning down. And this is a fantastic place. They had a hydroponics in the basement where they raised their own tilapia. They had a garden on the roof. I mean, just a fantastic place. Fantastic place. And so the daughter sends out this tweet, and she said that my dad said, hey, let it burn. She said, let it burn because those officers must be arrested.
Yeah. Wow.
That dude is sharp.
That's right. You're paying. Yeah. Like, you're willing to pay the price, right? Like, that's what it's going to take. People willing to pay.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we had other business owners who are standing outside their little stores with shotguns.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Wow.
And it's like, what is in that store that is worth anybody's life?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's down there other than hydroponics?
I don't own anything. Yeah, I don't own anything that I would kill you for it. I don't own anything. You can have it all.
Chiclets. I mean, like really. I mean, really. What one of the things that was most moving out of all the interviews I saw was an interview with the store owner who called the police on the whole business of the $20 bill or whatever.
Oh yes.
But what I saw that's come out of that is they've decided they won't phone the police anymore.
Oh really?
Yeah. So his interview was, he says if he had his time back, he wouldn't have called. And it wasn't him that called. It was a store employee.
Yeah.
And he said, he normally tells them, you don't phone the police because they fear for the lives of these black men. And what's going to happen if the police come out? And his worst fears, he says, came true.
Yeah. This is interesting. So the other night, it was during this curfew stuff. I can't, the days blend together. I don't know exactly which night it was, 3 nights ago maybe. Someone from the neighborhood that I don't know very well came running to our house because she and her boyfriend got into an altercation, and none of us wanted to call the police.
Right.
Because we were scared what would happen to this man.
Yeah.
If we called, it was just such a bizarre feeling. It was like, well, just come in here and be safe in my house, but
wow.
Nobody wanted to call the police. Something's not right there.
It's terribly wrong. I mean, this is stuff that us white privileged take for granted.
Yeah.
Like, you just think phoning the police is no big deal. They'll come and protect us.
Yeah.
But you folks, you're worried about calling the police. You're worried for your life. I mean, it's time for change, folks.
Yeah. Big time.
When I was a kid, we would say, serve and protect, break a brother's neck.
Oh,
Isn't that terrible?
man.
Really?
So whenever I hear
Never heard
Whenever
that.
I hear someone say serve
Yeah.
and protect, I say break a brother. It's in the back of my head.
Wow,
Break a brother's
right
neck.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazing.
What were you going to say, Rob? I cut you
Oh
off
no,
like
that's okay.
5
No, no.
times. I'm so
We
sorry.
we love it when we get
No
cut
worries.
off.
That's
Because
right.
then that makes us like family. This is
That's
what
right.
I do
That's
with
right.
family.
Yeah, yeah.
You were
No,
family.
it's all good. It's all good, Angela. It
Yeah,
happens.
what's for dinner?
It happens to me every Sunday
What's for
when
dinner, Rob?
I'm preaching.
Rob, what's for dinner? What's for dinner, man?
Yeah, man. She wants to know what's for dinner.
What's
Come
for
on.
dinner?
We're
I have
family.
takeout. Yeah.
Take it.
I wanted to ask you a bit about the church and your community again too, because I saw something on, I think it was like the local Fox affiliate or something. There's a story being done about the food donations that came into the church, and the reporter was like hidden in the sea of food in the basement. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So, but you've done this work of mobilizing yourself to address the needs that are happening right now in your community. And I saw that about the food bank and stuff. So I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that. And I know one of the things you said before we came on today was you had a rough day today because you were trying to make some changes to things about the food collection in the bank. But could you tell us a bit about that and how that all came together?
We are not a food shelf site. This is all just crisis mode. So since our little neighborhood that had, we had a local food grocery store, we had a big Target, we had a Cub Food, that's a full service supermarket, then we had a little Aldi, and there was a few blocks over another Aldi. So we had all these grocery stores, and then in one night that changed.
All gone.
No pharmacy, just in one night, 24 hours. So we're just here in crisis mode. This isn't what we do. This isn't our necessarily our gift area, and we are receiving tons, and I mean poundage. I mean tons of food just through the week, and it comes in, it goes out. It comes in, it goes out, and the need is great. People are lining up for hours. And it was simply just not sustainable.
Right.
In terms of just even parking, just logistics, we couldn't pull it off because we would see not hundreds of people in a day, thousands of people in a day. Wow. And so this is the first week where we went to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday format. Yeah. And we were going to, instead of 9 to 6, we would try noon to 6 to give our volunteers a break. Well, today it was 95 degrees, and we tried to have one long line instead of several long, and the line started to snake around and come back up, and people were getting frustrated, and people weren't keeping a single file line, and it was hard to tell who was next in line, and some people had just been there for 10 minutes when other people had been there for 3 hours, and they jumped in front. Oh, it was just. It deteriorated a little bit, but we just keep reminding our volunteers, we have enough. Mm-hmm. We have enough. We are living in God's abundance. So that's we have
Praise
enough.
the Lord.
And also, some of our people have lived through civil war. Mm-hmm. They know what a drought is, what a famine is, and so. When the stores are burned down and public transportation for a while wasn't running, so you couldn't even get to a store. If you had the money, you couldn't even find your way to a store. So it brings back, it triggers post-traumatic stress in people's lives. They can remember being in a famine. They can remember being in a refugee camp. They can remember walking to the United States, trying to cross the border. They can remember those things, and you can feel it. It's palpable. So we kept trying to just remind our volunteers that we are freely have received, so freely we also give. Right. And so that was a challenge. Today, it didn't work that well today. So this was a new model. So we're Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we have the rest of the day and tomorrow to kind of do some tweaking, and we're gonna come back. We haven't given up. We're just. Yeah. After, it's kind of like GPS, right? Recalculating. Right. We got off. Now we're going to just figure out how to get back. So it will all work out. Always does.
I was thinking of that story in the Gospels of the Jesus saying, we're going to feed all these people, and the disciples went, "How are we going to do that?
How are we going to do that?
The logistics of this, Jesus,
Yeah.
are just
Yes.
but there's abundance, right?
Yeah,
And
right.
and that's where it's at. So,
And was that orderly? Did
I
people
doubt
make
it.
a single file
not at all.
line?
Exactly. It would have been chaos.
it.
Yeah.
It would have been chaos, right?
Yeah.
Did they have
Holy.
to say how much they made in a year? Did they have to do their
No.
take a drug test?
Yeah.
Right?
No.
Prove they were a citizen? Did we have to do any of those things? I don't
No,
think
man,
so.
No way.
No,
man.
it was about the need, right? There's the
About
need.
the need.
Take care of the need
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
Now-
you feed them.
Now, you guys have thought about something going forward too, right? Like you told me last night, there's a thing happening. You guys have made a decision to
Oh.
collect some money.
Yes, so we're trying to raise $100,000, and we need every penny of that because, like I say, this thing happens, with the layer of COVID.
Right.
So we have people that are out of work and they need help with their rent. Some people were displaced because of the fires, and so have no place to live. And so we see a lot of new needs arising. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to send you that link, Kevin, that giving link. I don't know how you can share it, maybe.
Yeah. Ian
On
will
your
make sure to
site.
put it on the description of this podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Absolutely.
That's right, Ian.
Yeah.
I got
You're
you.
the man.
He's the
Yeah.
man.
So I'll find that link so that we can share, because we're going to need every penny of that.
Yeah.
Well,
We're going to need every penny
we'll-
of that. There was a family that lived above one of the stores that was burned, and they survived with just their car.
Wow.
Oh,
So
Wow.
that's not enough.
No, it's not.
Thankfully, it's not the middle of winter. Thankfully,
That's right.
it's not.
Mhm.
And
We're
so
not in the frozen.
I know a lot of people have been asking questions like, what can we do? And this is one of the things that you can do. And so we'll make sure this is in the description. You want to do something right now. You want to be a support. Here's a church on the ground in the
On
third
the ground.
precinct in the neighborhood where the need is unbelievable. And your gift, every penny, as Angela says, will make a difference.
Yeah.
So
When
so
it comes in, it goes out.
that's
When
right.
it comes in, it goes out.
So
That's what
you-
we do.
and-
That food
and-
that you saw in that video, that food is gone. That
That's
basement
gone.
is empty.
Wow.
That's
That stuff
incredible.
is gone. We put
That's
it out.
incredible.
Comes
And-
in, it goes out.
And when you think about it, I mean, folks, like, we all sort of try and evaluate, where am I going to get my money where it doesn't, not a lot of, they don't take a lot of
Oh, yeah.
overhead out or whatever. This money is going right to the ground. So folks do that.
Yep.
Now, I want to shift
Yep,
on
yep.
from there just a little bit, Angela, if we can,
Sure.
and talk about you. Because
Sure,
Jesus,
what's up?
because you are beautifully made. So you are wonderfully
Fearfully
made. So
and wonderfully made. It's a
We
true
wanna-
story.
We
True
want to
story.
know about you a little bit. So tell us about you beyond the biography that I read, because we can all write a biography. That's all official and everything. It looks good on the parish
Yeah.
webpage. You look great
Yeah.
on there. Everything is perfect. But you've had life
Yeah.
experience that I know people need to hear. And I wanted to hear about your journey with what you've referred to as the scandalous Jesus. I listened to a sermon of yours online, and you talked about Jesus being scandalous. And I absolutely loved it.
Yes.
And I'm guessing that a lot happens between Omaha, Nebraska, and this very moment in time now where you are in the midst of that scandalous work that Jesus calls you to.
Right.
And in the Journal of Lutheran Ethics, you and your co-pastor, Ingrid Rasmussen,
Yeah.
published a reflection on a book called Dear Church, a love letter from a black preacher to the whitest denomination in the United States. And it was written by Lenny Duncan.
Yeah.
He's a pastor in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. In it, you write this: my name is Angela Khabeb, and I'm asked to establish my Lutheran pedigree with such frequency that I'm surprised when it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Certainly, I'm no stranger to double standards. As an African-American woman, I learned from an early age that the world treats different people differently, and serving in the whitest denomination in the United States has provided me with yet another list of prejudgments to encounter. Tell us more about that by telling us more about you and what you've experienced.
Oh my gosh. It's so, it's the older I get, the less patience I have for it, because some people make things, cultural things, Lutheran, i.e. Christian, and it doesn't need to be. For example, like one time I was in our break room here at this church, and I was putting cream in my coffee. True story. I was putting cream in my coffee, and one of the volunteers says, "Oh, cream in your coffee." Well, that's not very Lutheran now, is it? You know what?
Woo!
What is that?
Yeah, that's
So that is underneath there on the bottom, under that is saying you don't belong here. That's the subtext. The subtext is you have to do things the way that we do them.
Yeah.
And it's like, you are not Jesus. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just, it can be just ridiculous, just some of the things. And they call those things microaggressions, and I don't know how one of the pastors at the EOCA head office, Reverend Albert Starr, he said that he doesn't call them microaggressions anymore because they stay with you,
right?
Throughout your life, so are they micro? Like one time, oh gosh, there's just so many. One time I was going to a funeral. This is when I lived in Delphus, Ohio.
Oof.
That was my first call, was in in rural Ohio. We were the only Black family in this town. And I knew it was probably not the best decision that I made. And I knew that 6 months in, and I stayed an additional 3 years. And it was the wrong, I haven't processed all of that. And we left there in 2014. So anyway, while I was there, I met this one pastor. He is so beautiful and so kind. Pastor Worryman, I think is how you pronounce his last name. It's been a while. So when I first met him, he must have hugged me 5 times. He said he was so glad I was here, so glad I was here. And of course, he marched with Dr. King and la, la, la. So then Pastor Worryman died. And I was like, oh, what a sweet, sweet, kind man. So I go to the funeral. And then as I'm leaving, my alb, my worship robe, is on my arm. And I'm walking out. And there was some guy who was just like giving me the stank eye since the moment I got there. So when he sees me leaving with my alb over my arm, he says, oh, so do the robes need to be cleaned?
Oh, boy.
And I said, I just want to bury my friend.
Yeah.
Can I just bury my friend and not have to be the Black one? I just want to bury my friend. That's all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just some of those kind of things. There's so many.
Yeah, I bet.
There's so many, Kevin. It's just when it happens in God's house, it carries a different level of pain in that this is God's house. This is my Father's house. You can't put me out.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't mistreat me here because I'm just as called as you are. So
of all the places to do that, in a place where we affirm that we're going to respect the dignity of every human being, that we're gonna see Jesus in every human being, we're gonna hold up Jesus in every relationship. I mean, that's not the place that you should experience that.
No, and but see, it's systemic.
Yes.
And so it's present in all of our institutions because the church is a microcosm of society.
Right.
So whatever you find in society, you'll find it in the church.
Right.
So yeah, it's present. It's a matter of us dismantling white supremacy and staying on top of that.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the way we lift up our colors when we talk about black and white, just the way we couch our phraseology, lightness is better than darkness, just things like that we just keep lifting up, giving life to. Classical music is more important. Anything Eurocentric is intrinsically better than everything else. And so as long as we keep doing that, we keep sending this message forth that white is better.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you've prevailed against that stuff.
Yeah, just barely.
I bet.
Barely, because it's taxing. And at some point I wonder, how much of my life span, True Talk, is shortened by this level of constant stress. Our first baby in 2005, I was in seminary at LSTC, and our first baby was born early and still. And, I had to labor all night for a child I knew was already dead.
I'm sorry.
And so sometimes I wonder if I was in a less stressful environment. All moms do this, though. All moms do this. If you've had a loss, all moms do this. But I still say, boy, if I was in a different environment, could I have brought forth life?
Wow.
But because I was in a situation that was so life draining, is that why my baby didn't? You know, I think about that all the time. And, you know, we're talking about COVID and how it disproportionately affects Black and brown people and indigenous people. And it's part of it is access to healthcare. Part of it is even being listened to when you go to the doctor.
Right.
And there is just this deep, there's a Emily Towns. She's a womanist theologian. I don't know if you know her, Emily Towns, Dr. Towns. She has a book, Breaking the Fine Rain of Death. And in it, she talks about the infant mortality rate among Black people, Black women. And she said that it is the same regardless of education, regardless of access to health care, and regardless of money, regardless of income. And the common thread is the chronic stress of being Black in America.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that is.
Isn't that humbling and pretty much disgusting?
Yeah.
It's pretty sad.
It falls in that category of the veil being torn back again.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Now I am the queen of tangents. I can just go bing, 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 bing on all kinds of tangents. So buckle up your seatbelt. If you don't bring it back, we're just going. If you don't bring it back, we'll just be
Robbie,
somewhere else.
Robbie, you better bring it back.
Totally
Robbie.
okay. Bring it back. Gotta bring it back. No, we're good. We're good, Angela. We can go anywhere here.
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
Yeah, we can go anywhere. I think Ian wanted to ask you a question about.
What's up, Ian?
Yes, I do.
Youth stuff too, right, Ian?
So I am the youngest of these two gentlemen in this podcast.
Yeah, because he's the hopeful one.
Yeah, that's right. He said hope. You were in pieces, and he was in hope. So there's you can see.
Give him 2 decades.
Praise Jesus.
I'm sorry. Hope maketh not ashamed.
Yeah,
that's
amen.
what the Bible said. Hope maketh not ashamed.
That's right. Okay. All right, Ian. Bring us some hope, brother.
So I want to know, because I think that a lot of issues can be solved by just learning about it and listening to other people. I want to know what you would say to the younger generation to help them and sort of unlearn the systemic ridiculousness that exists. What would you teach them?
I would say it's got to be every day you recommit yourself. It's something you recommit yourself to. I like to liken racial justice to eating right. I don't know how things are in Canada, but Americans, we have terrible eating habits. And I'm painting with a broad brush. Generally speaking, if you don't make a conscious effort to eat healthy, it's not going to happen. At least not in my house. I mean, you got French fries and you got broccoli.
Yeah.
That's not really a choice, is it?
That's not a choice.
I can't believe I ate the whole thing, right? So if you don't recommit every day, like reminding yourself of your baptism, today I want to honor Jesus in all forms, and just recommit every day. Examine yourself. Like my dad, I don't like to talk about my family too much, just because I'm an open book. I'll just tell you anything. So sometimes I throw my family, but I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
So my dad used to work installing office furniture. So I mean, he was in all kinds of different businesses all the time. And when it's time to get on an elevator, then if there's only a white woman on the elevator, he'll just wait to the next elevator.
Yeah.
He'll just wait.
Yeah.
And so it's about checking with yourself when you have those feelings, when you're like, oh, here's a black guy. Here's, we hear those tapes, right? And maybe no one's ever pulled you aside and said, you need to be afraid of black people. But the media tells us that, right? We see it in movies, and just kind of actively pressing against those stereotypes and doing that every day.
Unconscious.
But then when we drop and we don't do it so well one day, we just recommit the next day, right? We say, oh, I can learn something from that, and then I recommit.
It's an unconscious bias.
Yeah. You're not aware that you're doing it. I catch myself all the time, and it's like, oh, wow, I shouldn't. Where did that come from?
I think, Angela, when I was saying at the beginning that the idea of feeling transformed, I think you named it for me there, because that's the transformation I'm feeling. Is I've heard these stories my whole life, of course,
Right.
And the transformation is coming now. I think more so now. I'm really hearing them where it's actually going to the core of me. Like I can feel it in my soul when I hear these stories.
Amen.
That's the change. And by God knows I got a long way to go. But for the first time, I mean that's been my message talking to folks about this is you got to feel this. Like you got to hear this.
It's not
outside
up
of it. Just outside of just a story and say, oh, I know, isn't that awful? No, when it hits down in here, that's the veil lifting and the new creation starting, right?
Yeah. My church is a very academic church.
Mm-hmm.
We love to read. We love book studies. We love facts. We love charts and graphs. We love that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that heart piece.
Yeah.
It's that heart piece, and that's where the change really takes root. Because one day we grow up and then we become part of the system. We get a mortgage, we get married, we've got a couple of kids, and then we just fall into, we're not as bold as we used to be. We're not as, we're not going to take the same risks because our lives have changed. So while we're young, we should, be bolder, take more risks, speak out more. The one thing we can do for sure for everybody, regardless of age, is not be silent. So when we hear those jokes or those comments, when we're around the table with our families for holidays and, your crazy uncle, Bruce, he's going to come in there and say something.
Uncle Buck's coming to the table.
Here he comes, man.
Always. So, you don't want to start anything, right? Because grandma's there and she's going to start crying if there's an argument. So at least you can go on record and say, I'm not comfortable with that.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right.
At least say that. I'm not so sure that's true.
Yeah. Ian's got a follow-up.
Ian,
I do have a follow-up. I do have a follow-up. Yes,
Ian.
I do.
Uh-oh, fake news.
Fake news. I just knew we were going to have fake news on this podcast.
Is that our president speaking to us?
He's not welcome on the Vicars Crossing, I got to say. But anyway, go ahead.
Absolutely not. Never.
I swear I heard him. I just heard him.
Yeah. So you talk about your family, and I want to sort of a tangent a little bit, but one of the most heartbreaking things to watch is George Floyd on the ground calling for his mother.
Oh.
Right? Mm-hmm. Mm. I don't know if I really need to ask this, but what would you... how does that affect you, and what would you tell your children?
Oh man, it's hard. When I made the mistake, I shouldn't say mistake. I don't know what it is. I watched the whole video.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the protests. I'll try to socially distance myself. I'll have my mask, because I believe in bling. Let me show you my mask.
Let's see.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Blinged out. There you go. Yes. So I said, I'll wear my mask. I'll try to socially distance myself. But when I heard that man yell, "Mama," I said, "Mama, I can't breathe." And I thought, oh, I hope his mom does not hear this. I didn't know that she had already died. But in that moment, I was just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And so my oldest, Konami, he's 12. He has autism. He comes over, "Mom, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, "I'm just sad. What happened? What happened?" I said, "This man died." And he said, "Was it in a car accident?" I said, "No, sweetheart." And so then I went up. I just needed a hug. So I went up and my husband gave me a hug. And so I'm just sobbing. And the kids come in and they're, one of my kids, Kenna, says, "Mom, were we related to him?" And I said, "No." And my husband says, "Yes, we were, because he was a human being." And
Amen.
So I told my husband, I said, "Baby, I have to go to the protest. I just have to. I cannot stay home."
Right.
And so we were making our own signs, and I was going to make a Black Lives Matter sign, but in that moment, I could not say Black Lives Matter because even I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Even I couldn't carry that and with any kind of truth in it.
Right.
And so I said, "Kids, let's make a sign. What should it read?" And they said, "We are human." So that was my side. I got ahead of our human side.
Yeah, we are humans.
So the kids asked me at one point, because I'm watching news all day, and all day it's buildings burning. So kids don't have a concept. They're 12, 9, and 8. So they don't have a real concept of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So then one of them says, "Mom, is the whole world burned down?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "No, baby, not the whole world.
No.
Not the whole. A good portion of our neighborhood, but no, not the whole world.
Yeah.
Not the whole world." So, I don't know. It's a delicate. I should say delicate balance. I don't know what it is. It's living while Black. We have to train our children, especially our boys, to be proud of who they are, and to assert their humanity, and also to be able to drop their humanity if it means you'll come home to me. You drop your pride, you drop any sense of whatever. Just come home. Just come home. Do what they say. They want you to get on the ground, you get on the ground. They want you to strip, you strip. They want to cavity search you by the side of the road, then you get cavity searched by the side of the road, but you come home. You survive. And so how do you do that? And I still need you to respect these police officers.
Wow.
Right.
So how do you do all that? I don't know. And before I came to Minneapolis is supposed to be this progressive place. Prince lived in Minneapolis.
That's right. Yeah.
All these LGBTQ rights. I mean, this is where you need to be. This progressive. And there's George Floyd.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, those 3 officers knelt on that man's body like it was an altar.
Right. Yeah.
They knelt on him.
Yeah. Oh,
Squeeze
that's
the life
painful.
out of
This. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. You had said that you don't talk too much about your family, but can I bring up your sister for a minute? Because is that all right?
I don't like to tell stories that I don't have permission to tell yet. But yeah.
Well, she told this story to a lot of people the other night. So I have to tell everybody that Angela's sister Amber is famous to me because I watch her all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Amber is a writer and performer on Late Night with Seth Meyers.
And she calls me every day. I give her all those jokes.
Does she?
She's the best.
I'm starting to believe it, actually. I believe it.
Give me a joke, please. Give me a joke.
That's right. I hope you're getting royalties, man. Yeah. But anyway, she's been doing this thing on Seth Meyers' show over the last little while, where she's kind of got her own pulpit, if you will, and telling some stories of her experience as well. There's one that she told the other day that I just thought was amazing. It was, and I'm going to paraphrase it and cut it real short. So she's in a car with a white friend, male friend.
Oh yeah.
Did you hear this story, by the way? Or
I watched them.
Yeah. So she's in the car with this guy who's a friend, and she says she's wearing kind of like a velvet suit because she's going to a party, right? And so anyway, they go by like a truck stop area because his dad's a truck driver, and he wanted to see if his dad was there. So they're slowly kind of driving around looking in the car, and they get pulled over by a cop. And it rolls down the window, and the cop is like super nice and kind and polite and everything to, of course, the white driver in the suit, and then looks over at your sister and sees her in the velvet suit and says something to the effect of, well, we're a little worried about people around here because there's been a lot of prostitution.
Yeah.
And she's, oh my, like unbelievable.
Outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
But anyway, she look for it on YouTube, folks, and watch Amber tell the story. But she made an emotional plea for all of us at the end, and I just want to quote what she said. She said, vote, call your representatives, unfriend racists, and most importantly, when you see something, say something, do something, get loud. Don't let people get away with racist crap. Not anymore. It's a new day.
It's a new day.
Give me chills when I just saying it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And now I know you're completely agreeable with your baby sister, but would you want to add anything to that, or what would your advice be for would-be allies and those that are looking for a way to come alongside her?
I would like to remind people that when people spot racism, it's especially necessary for white people to say something. If I were to mention every racist act that happens in a day, that's all I would do.
Right.
And then people would be like, oh, great, here she comes, you know. So I need white people to say it, because what I'm learning, just having my partner, my ministry partner is a white woman, is that white words matter.
Right.
White words matter. When I say, let's try X, Y, Z, then people just can't hear that. But when Pastor Ingrid says, let's try X, Y, Z, they're like, yes, let's do that. White words matter. So it's important. And racism is a white people's problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for white people to say something. For example, I am heterosexual. Homophobia is a heterosexual issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I'm someplace and I can recognize it, because I don't always recognize it, I have to say that I don't always recognize that something's happening. And then I was like, oh, it's my time. I should say something. And so that's the onus rests on me to say something, because homophobia and LGBTQIA fear is a heterosexual issue. And so I need, as a heterosexual, to stand up and say something. Does that make sense?
Oh, very much. And thank you for saying that, because that's powerful for me to hear it. And I know people listening today to hear that.
So when I say that, I say as a heterosexual, I miss stuff. I miss it because it's just not on my radar. I totally miss it. And so sometimes people bring it to my attention. They're like, you idiot. It's like, oh, sorry. Okay. Give me one chance. Let me, let me pivot.
And I think as it relates to the church, I was just thinking about a conversation I've had recently with a friend who's also a pastor, and our realities are not that much different. The Anglican Church of Canada, or the Episcopal Church in the United States, and the Lutheran Church in America, or the Lutheran Church in Canada, not that different in terms of the cultural biases that are there.
Right.
And like you said, I mean, I often said when I, that I spend most of my time trying to get people out from between their two ears to access their heart, because we need a conversion in here. And this, speaking with a friend who's a person of color, who's a pastor, saying, people need their hearts changed, and it's white people who need to do this. Like, it's not me that needs to do this. It's a white, just what you just said, it's a white person's problem. And this pastor was basically saying, I'm tired of having to explain it. I'm tired of what happens to me in subtle and not so subtle ways in the church, and the way, and they're not ever provable. It's always some little thing, it's, and it's not that easy to point to and say, oh, you're discriminating against me, because it's like, oh, no, it's just happenstance. And so I think your advice there about us who are would-be allies is, yes, we need to find a voice to recognize it, A, and then B, speak up, just like your little sister said. Time is now.
Now
she's incredible. By the way, you tell her she can come on the podcast anytime she wants.
She's fantastic.
Love her. Yeah.
She's awesome. And you know what? She's always like she's great. She's great. She really is great. And I want to say this: I've never met Seth Meyers, but clearly this is a testament to his being an ally.
He gave her every night last week.
Oh yeah.
So clearly this is a testament to him. I've never heard her say anything remotely negative, not remotely, negative about it. But Kevin, you mentioned about the heart thing and how it's white people need to work on things. Yes. And people of color, Black people, we internalize racism.
Right.
You understand? We internalize it. And so sometimes that can be a challenge in relationships. I don't know. Do we have time for a story?
Oh, we always got time. Yeah. We're loving you. If we have an hour and a half podcast, we're not upset. If you've got time, we've got time.
Okay. So check this out. Okay. So like I say, I graduated from seminary in 2009. And so in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, you have to have a call. Means the church has to call you in order for you to be ordained. So I waited almost 2 years. That's a long time.
Yes, sir.
So we had to move back into my parents' basement. I had a husband and 2 kids, 2 degrees, and here I am applying for food stamps. Mm-hmm. Something's not right there.
Not right.
Something's not right. So I get this call. I get the interview at this church, the one that's in Delphus, Ohio, and we're the only Black family there. There were a couple Black people, couple Black kids. Really family at least that I ever met. So I'm there at the meet and greet, And there's this older guy, Harold, I can't think of his last name, Harry Dunlap. So he's got this walker or a cane, one of the two, cane or a walker, and I can see him out of the corner of my eye. And so I'm meeting and greeting people, and I'm trying to stay away from him because I need this job and I need it to work. And I don't want this racist white guy to come over and say something crazy to me because then I have to stay home. I can't take the call. So he's coming after me. I'm just moving as fast as I can. Fast my little fat legs will carry me. I'm trying to watch him to get out of his way. I look up. He's got me. So he says, Angela, I just want you to know I'm so glad that you're going to be our pastor. Welcome. Isn't that something?
That is beautiful.
That's
and
amazing.
I avoided his old white ass. You hear me? When I saw him, I avoided him like the plague.
Yeah.
Because I had these preconceived notions about him.
Sure.
And I avoided him. And it was never the right time to apologize.
No.
But on his deathbed, I was there and his kids were there. And I said, I just have something I need to say to Harry.
Oh,
And I don't know how much of it he heard, but I said, I'm very sorry. I should not have done that. But but past experience.
Well, what a beautiful thing. I watched last night. Frederica Whitefield on CNN had a show called Unconscious Bias, and she did talk about how these biases that we've had ingrained in us, they affect the Black community as well. That you buy the same narrative in a way, and people start to look at themselves in ways that. Yeah. So we all got work to do, and in a way, it sort of relates to this last question I had for you, which was around this. I read it in your bio, your sort of mantra, I suppose. My kernel of truth, you call it. Your kernel of truth is that we serve a God who is intimately and infinitely concerned with each and every one of us, including you and Harold and me and the boys here and all this stuff.
And Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump, hard as that is to get our heads around. Yeah. I mean, that's a part of the struggle, right? So these are really important words. I was taken by these words when I read them. I mean, I felt like all of a sudden my belovedness mattered when I read those words of yours. Yeah. I thought, oh, well, God is concerned with me that way, with with me infinitely and intimately. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. So share with us why that's at the core of your spirituality.
Because I have had my humanity diminished repeatedly. Mm-hmm. And so I have to remind myself constantly that God is infinitely and intimately concerned with me. And you, right? And so that helps me center myself, especially when it's hard to pastor racists. Mm-hmm. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. Yeah. Like even now I'm trying to figure out, so now what do I do? How can I be a good pastor in a predominantly white church with all of these racial complexities that are happening? What's my role? So I'm trying to figure that out.
And what do you do? I mean, like there must be like, we're in Canada, so we watch the American sort of politics like a blood sport, okay? Because what's going on over there can only be described as utter madness. I said on a podcast a couple of weeks ago, it's like we had this really respectable neighbor, and they moved out the neighborhood, and then this truck came rolling down the road one day with like music blaring out the windows, and they moved in, and it's been a shit show ever since. and we keep waiting for the police to show up and do something about it.
Get the neighbor out.
Yeah, but they're too busy kneeling on people. I mean, they're not going to deal with this guy. And so I'm like, well, what's happening? So what do you do as a pastor with your Trump voter in the congregation? Like,
we can count in our church. We can count them pretty close to one. I'm at an extremely progressive.
Well, that's good to know. I guess I just wouldn't want you to have. I just wouldn't want you to have that battle every day.
The battle I have seen. See now, you've got progressive woke whites.
Yes.
Now before I came here, people said, Angela, progressive white people can be very challenging. And I was like, oh no, these are gonna be my brothers. These are hippies, make love, not war. Everything's gonna be fine. Flower power, it's gonna be great.
I don't wear a flowery shirt.
Oh no,
ain't not happening.
So woke white folks can be expressly challenging. Yeah. And so now people want to process with me about the pain that they're feeling because of, you know, the
Sure.
just walking around the neighborhood. It's humbling. It is, especially if this is your neighborhood and you lived. I just got here 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't have the same kind of memories tied up here in these buildings. You know what I mean? So it is a little different. And so part of it is that I'm still grieving Emmett Till's death.
Yes.
And he was he lived and died before I was even born.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's this generational lament
Right.
that's happening. And so now there's like this wave that has swept over me.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing on different promises of God. When you pass through the water, they will not overwhelm you.
Amen.
Yeah.
When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. I am with you. I have redeemed you.
Yeah.
I have called you by name. So I'm trying to just find my footing and my bearing and my true north, so to speak.
Yes.
And so I'm extra challenged trying to help some of my parishioners and colleagues move through this racism that they're newly discovering. You know what I'm saying? And how do I be faithful as a pastor and also as a Black woman, not drop dead from all of the things, And so I don't know what exactly that looks like. One of my colleagues is pulling together some resources specifically for women of color who are pastors specifically. So like there's some pastors in other parts of the country who aren't living under so much pressure like we are here at Ground Zero.
Right.
And so we're trying to help each other and support each other through this trauma.
Wonderful. You need that. So
because it's not just George Floyd.
No.
Oh, we have Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
We have Ahmaud Arbery. And apparently there's been 11 people that have died just during these protests.
2 weeks,
during the uprising. So there's so much to grieve.
Right.
And so we're in this place of lamentation.
Well, and as you said, there's generational stuff to grieve, right?
Generational stuff. Yeah. Generational stuff. Yeah.
Well, I hope Angela too, that, you know, through this forum and people that watch this and that we'll be talking to, there'll be a lot of people praying and lamenting with you. So
I need all.
I hope you know. Yeah, I really hope you know and feel that, because we are connected in that way.
You know, I think that might be something that I might ask for. You know, people keep asking me, what do you need? What do you need? What can we do for you, me personally? What can we do? What can we do? And it's so overwhelming. But you know, last night I'm just having a terrible time sleeping. I got some melatonin. I got these little gummies, you know, so I got melatonin still tossing.
Scotch.
And lots of it.
Not melatonin, Angela. Scotch. Sorry.
So anyway, Kevin, you whiskey Palian, you.
Sorry.
Right? Whiskey Palians, right?
Yeah, that's right. Whiskey Palians. And let me be a Canadian and say, I'm sorry, Angela. I'm so sorry. I interrupted you.
You know what they say about Lutherans? Wherever 3 or 4 are gathered, there's a fifth. Right? So
anyway, go ahead. Sorry. You were gonna ask for something meaningful, and I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Yes, I was. Liquor notwithstanding.
Yeah.
So usually what I do, like to try to settle myself, I'm tossing and turning, and I like to just try to pray a little bit. And then I feel like that some of that anxiety, you know, my roots are Pentecostal, the devil will back up and leave you alone. Just pray a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I could not get maybe 2 sentences. And then my brain would just go, you know, into this little click, 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 or brain's just click, click, click anyway. And so then I was thinking maybe I could ask people to pray and put it on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, do a video or something and stick it on my Facebook page. Pray for me, and then give me some words, man. And then late at night, I just say, God, this is what my sister is praying for me. This is what my friend is praying for me. This is what, you know, my Canadian folks.
That's right. So folks, exactly. You're hearing this. Post those videos on Angela's page.
Yep.
So Ian, maybe you can string something together for me.
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe get something together so I'm not fumbling around and then cussing.
No, that's great, Angela. Yeah, I've always
Technology.
there you go.
Throw the phone across the room.
I could do that.
I've always said there's a reason Jesus called others around him, because he knew he couldn't do it on his own. So, I mean, this is who we are, and we got to do that. And we'll definitely do it for you. So, so that's great. Well, this has been an absolute joy. What a joy you've been.
It's so much fun.
Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. Hey, can we just do one more thing before you go? We'd like to have a little fun with all of our guests. This is the lightning round. Okay, 3 or 4 really quick questions for you, and you just answer whatever comes up.
I'm ready.
Here we go.
Do I win anything?
All right.
I want to win something.
Oh yeah, no, you get the privilege of knowing you answered them right.
Okay. Bragging rights. I'll take it.
Number 1, you're stuck in the house in a pandemic. What's Angela's go-to comfort food?
Ooh, meat.
Oh yeah, big.
I'm carnivorous. I'm from Nebraska.
There you go.
We eat vegetarians.
It's meat, right, Robbie? It's meat and right, so to do.
That is meat and right, so to do, and our bound and duty. Last show you binged watched.
Oh, The Love Boat.
Oh, I like that.
They're gonna take away my black card.
Yeah, I think so.
They might. Isaac is on there. Hey.
Oh, Isaac. Yeah. We're back to the alcohol now, Angela. Now, come on. You spent some time in Wisconsin, correct?
Yes.
So I wanted to ask, have you ever wore a cheese hat in public?
I have not.
Okay.
My hair is too big. I have big hair. I want it.
Favorite churchy word?
Churchy
or
word?
phrase? Churchy word, like a churchy word or phrase. What's your favorite that we use a lot?
I don't know. I like to say that, bless the Lord, oh my soul. I like to say that.
Yeah.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Churchy word. I wasn't ready for
churchy word. Yeah. Okay. We'll go the other side of it. A churchy word that you think we got to get rid of completely. One of our guests said, for those who are able, please stand.
Yeah, standing as you are able. Yeah,
standing as you are able. She hated that.
Yeah.
Another one said narthex.
I was just getting ready to say narthex. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Batman to the narthex.
Get the Batmobile.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. I'm never using it again, I promise. Well, Angela, thanks so much again. We really appreciate it. No, we pray for you. We keep you in our thoughts.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I hope one day you'll get up into the pulpit and you'll look out and you'll say,
see you guys.
What are those 3 white Canadians doing down there? And who are those? Who are those guys? And
they look familiar.
Maybe we can do that someday down the road. When
I'd love it. I'd love
it.
Be
That'd be
field trip. We'll take the bus and we'll podcast from Minnesota.
Yeah, that's right.
Love it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And
okay, awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks
you're
for
fantastic.
having me. This was so much fun.
Good.
Nice. Dinner at my place.
All right.
All right. Let's do it.
Meat and scotch. Yeah. Meat and
all right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Angela.
So much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Thanks. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Thank you. And so, Kevin, where can people find us, and what do we got coming up the next little bit?
Well, that's a good point, because now we've got this incredible webpage, which you should go visit at www.thevicarscrossing.com.
Booyah.
You'll find us on iTunes and SoundCloud and Buzzsprout and Spotify and YouTube if you want to see our beautiful faces. And we're looking very good. Swab, I've grown in the beard. How do you like the beard?
Have you? It's looking good.
Yeah, it's coming in.
Looking good, yeah.
And you can find us in all those places, and send along your emails to us at vicarscrossing@gmail.com so we can ask questions of Ian.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll look forward to that. And thanks again to our sponsor, A. Miller George Funeral Home, where each life is celebrated, and their sister company, Cremation London and Middlesex, both family owned and operated.
There you go.
Boys, you all take care. We'll see you real soon. And remember, Kevin, to always look both ways
before you cross the street.